Without Remorse is directed by Steffan Solima and stars Michael B. Jordan as John Kelly, an elite Navy SEAL who goes on a path to avenge his wife's murder, only to find himself inside of a larger conspiracy. So Without Remorse is yet another Tom Clancy Jack Ryan film adaptation, only this time it's not focusing on the titular character of Jack Ryan, it's instead focusing on the character known as John Clark, or more well-known John Kelly. This was an interesting choice for me. Obviously, this film was originally slated to come out theatrically. It was going to be distributed by Paramount. However, due to the pandemic and of course everything going on, they felt the right to give this film to Amazon and let them release it on Amazon Prime Video instead of releasing it theatrically, which in my opinion I thought was actually a pretty good decision when it came to this. I thought this was a pretty good streaming movie and a film that I very much enjoyed streaming and watching at home. You know, of course watching it in the cinema would have been better, and obviously I will take any movie in the cinema over watching it at home, but in regards to Paramount, you know, perhaps distributing some of their films streaming, I think that this was a pretty good choice to give to Amazon. Now, I don't have much history with the Tom Clancy or Jack Ryan mythology or the lore or anything like that. I've never read any Jack Ryan books or John Kelly books. The closest thing I have is I am a rather big fan of the Jack Ryan series that's currently debuting on Amazon. I'm a big fan of that show. I've been watching it since season 1, and I really enjoyed season 1. I wasn't too hot on season 2, but I really enjoyed season 1 particularly, and I'm excited to see what they do with the next season. We know we are getting a 3rd season of Jack Ryan, but that's basically it as far as my knowledge of the Jack Ryan universe. I've never seen any of the other films or anything like that, so this was still relatively new to me, and I'd never known of the character of John Clark before, so I kind of went into this fairly blind. I'll start off by talking about Michael B. Jordan as John Clark himself, who I think has really done a good job as the producer on this film, or at least one of the producers on this film, of creating a really good action franchise for himself, given the fact that it seems like the Creed franchise is probably coming to an end after the 3rd film, which of course Michael B. Jordan is going to be directing. It seems like this could be Michael B. Jordan's next big franchise. Now, Michael B. Jordan as an actor is someone I'm a little bit hit and miss with. There are some roles where I think he's really fantastic and a really fun, charismatic actor, but there are other performances of his, other characters that he plays that I feel like are very boring and dull characters. For example, his character that he plays in Chronicle, I really love, and I think he's fantastic in Chronicle, but then you look at his performance in, say, Just Mercy that came out last year, and that character that he played in that movie was just very boring for me, and I feel like that's the two flavours you really get with him as an actor. You either get a really fun, charismatic performance, or something a bit boring and dull. His character of John Kelly in this movie, or John Clark, kind of somehow rides in the middle. There are points in this film where I thought his performance was really good and really strong, and I think he's great in the movie throughout. But the character himself kind of differentiates at different points. There are times when he seems like he's a really fun, charismatic kind of character, and there are other times when he felt very boring and dull. So like I say, it's not really one or the other, it's kind of a little bit of both, and it kind of rides that line directly down the middle. But I do feel like Michael B. Jordan, performance-wise, does a really good job with this character and with this film, and I really enjoyed that. And the action sequences in this film were also really strong and very entertaining to watch. I was kind of hoping that they would be a bit better, to be honest. Like, they're not, blow your mind incredible. I was kind of hoping this movie was going to be the Extraction of this year. Obviously, Extraction, which came out in 2020, was released on Netflix. It was a fairly generic story with a very, generic leading man type of thing. It looked like a kind of similar film, but what really set Extraction apart was its phenomenal action sequences. Without Remorse, they're not on the level of Extraction or John Wick or The Raid or anything like that. It's pretty good action, but it's nothing that's going to blow your mind or take your breath away or anything like that. The action's good, it's entertaining. I enjoyed the action sequences here. They're quite brutal, and they're quite tactical and very much gritty and in your face. But in terms of the choreography and how cool they look, it's not on the level of something like Extraction, which is what I was kind of hoping for with this movie. Now, the story is also very, very hit and miss for me in this movie, because the story itself is very generic. It's a very typical story that you would expect to see in a movie like this. However, one thing that I will say about it is it definitely did take me by surprise. There is quite a lot of twists and turns in the film, which again is something you would expect with a film like this, given the story it's trying to tell. But the twists and turns, you know, given the actual end goal of what the villains were trying to do in this, I actually quite enjoyed that. And again, it wasn't something I particularly called, even though I did predict who the villain was. I didn't predict what the actual end game was and what the actual plan was for these villains, which again, I have really enjoyed once that was actually revealed by the end of the film. But the film can be a little slow in places, I found, especially when it does come to the story, because it is very generic for the majority of it. So it does feel like the story does just kind of go through the paces a lot of the time, and every now and then you do get a really cool twist, and like I say, by the end, when you see the full picture, I do think it works a lot better. But just moment to moment throughout the film, it can feel a little bit slow and a little bit generic and a little bit boring, because you feel like you've seen this movie just 100 times over. However, I am going to quickly dive into spoiler territory just before I discuss my final thoughts on the film. So if you have not seen Without Remorse, then make sure you skip ahead to the end of the video, just because I am going to be talking about spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So this movie does have a post-credit scene, which does set up a sequel and expand upon this world even further. Now, in terms of the sequel, I think a sequel for this movie obviously purely depends on how well it does streaming on Amazon Prime. I personally would like to see a sequel to this, even though it wasn't incredible or anything. It's by no means my favourite movie of this year so far. I really did see a lot of potential in this film, and again, the potential that I wanted this film to kind of capture, a sequel could still capture. And I think Michael B. Jordan, as I said at the beginning, has really started a really strong franchise and a really cool character for himself here. And if they do continue down this path and they do create the Rainbow Six team, which is what this ending scene kind of insinuates they're going to create, I think that could really deliver on that potential that I feel like this movie and this franchise has. You know, give it a much better story, a bigger scope, and a really strong, compelling cast with really cool characters that make up the Rainbow Six team. I feel like that would be something very much that this movie and this world and this franchise would need. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a big fan of the Jack Ryan TV series. I would also love to see a crossover at some point between the Rainbow Six universe here and the Jack Ryan universe. There is actually a character in this movie who is kind of a crossover between the two, you know, in the form of Pam Grier. Like, she's kind of in the middle. So they could easily do it. I would love to see it. I don't know if they ever would, but it's just a little wish of mine that if they do continue to build on this franchise and this Jack Ryan world, given the fact that both of these properties are technically Amazon properties now, I would love to see John Krasinski's Jack Ryan crossover with Michael B. Jordan's John Kelly. So overall, my thoughts on Without Remorse are that I thought it was a pretty decent film and a decent watch. Again, it's nothing incredible. It's by no means my favourite film of this year. I do feel like the action, the story definitely could have been better. But I think Michael B. Jordan is a good lead actor for this movie. I enjoyed the actual story by the end of it, and the action was enough to keep me entertained throughout. So overall, I thought Without Remorse, it's a decent watch. Again, nothing incredible, but I would definitely love to see more of this universe and more of this character going forward. But have you guys seen Without Remorse? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think about this film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know all your thoughts down there in the comment section. And as always, if you want to see more movie reviews just like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And I hope to see you guys again next time.